Hello, Corrine. Welcome to this week's edition of the Turning Points podcast. Not live. I almost said live, but we're not live. You're coming from Mexico, and I'm up here in frigid Wisconsin, and I believe there's about a 70-degree difference in climate from where you're at to where I'm at. So how are you enjoying that?
It's pretty awesome, although by the time we do this airs, I will be back in Nashville freezing my little butt off, but I am enjoying it right now. Yeah, you can tell I have a little bit of a tan. I've been laying out in the sun.
Yeah. Can't you tell I'm a little bit more translucent than I normally am?
Yes, you are.
It's cold, man, but I love it. It's actually been, I'm not complaining because we've been enjoying this winter. It's been kind of nice to just tuck in and, we have a little routine and it's been good. So, but I am a little bit jealous of you that you have this opportunity to sit on the beach and do that. So
very lucky.
I'm sure I'll throw that at you at random times throughout the podcast.
Okay, you can do that. And I'll just continue to eat my lobster tacos and my arugula pizza that's made by hand. Even the bread is made by hand. Yeah, I don't care.
God damn it.
So just a few minutes before we started, so this is a conversation between you and I.
Yep.
We're no guests today. This is
Correct.
Sean and I, raw, uncut, unfiltered, and a little goofy and unplanned a little bit, but always interesting.
Yeah.
We think.
Before, that's all that matters at this point. So yeah, right before I was telling you that I'm in this space of trying not to intellectualize and not to think too much and just be in life. And that's the exact same look that you gave me back then. And, I think it's good to have people in your life that hold you accountable to the truth of the matter. Because the truth of the matter is that it's very difficult for me to not be intellectual and heady. So, yeah, I think we'll spend a lot of time just kind of reflecting on, hopefully why I got to that perspective in my mind. And then, just kind of like recapping where we're at, kind of go off on some tangents about, different experiences and motifs throughout the podcast and maybe what the podcast is
turning into.
Doing. Yeah.
Right? Because we started it and had some intentions at the beginning that we talked about in the very first podcast that was just you and I, and now 15 interviews later, 14,
Sure.
Something like that. We'll see where we're at now and if we've had any major ahas or seen some threads.
Absolutely.
I feel like part of your desire or intentions right now with trying to just be and not intellectualize as much as maybe come from the weekly podcast?
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I guess maybe to start with, maybe the most profound or the most notable thing that I feel, it's funny. We kind of kicked this off with, when people start on a seeking path, what are some causes in your life or what happens or, what befalls you that starts you on a spiritual seeking path. Because I think I think we've talked about this a few different times. We both kind of subscribe to the idea that it's just this gift, this grace that happens, a combination of circumstances or perspectives or something awakens in the mind that puts you on this path. And so, we kind of went into this to dissect what is that mechanism? What is happening? Is there anything that you can point to that shows why somebody is put on that path? And I think what's interesting is after having the diverse stories, the backgrounds, there's a lot of commonality, right? There's some common threads and there's some motifs and all that, but there's a vast variety of ways people got to the space they're in. And then once it feels like these people and these guests kind of have been on that spiritual seeking path, there's this letting go of the seeking, letting go of the searching, and then just being. And so it's like almost impacted me. And I don't even want to say there's like a desire not to seek. There is just this feeling to just be as present and in the moment as possible and not try to dissect and intellectualize and think about things too much. So that's, I mean, it's clashing in my mind. It's my whole being is kind of centered around that. And that's probably the most profound thing that I've noticed since reflecting, I guess.
I love that you do come each week, open and ready to learn and to listen. And then you take that learning and listening and interaction we have with our guests and with each other, you take that into your life. And that's brought about this new realization. Okay, I've got to start intellectualizing less and really just being present. Like that's what it comes down to from many of these great teachers that have come on our show and our episodes. It does come back to the presence and out of the thinking, contriving mind into the present. And so I love that you're taking this and doing this, because I can't tell you, I mean, that's what I've tried to do and what I feel like I've done my whole life is I've been this seeker, and I've voraciously read books and gone on retreats and done silent retreats and gone with Deepak and Adyashanti and gone to India. And I really try to embody everywhere I go and learn as much as I can, and just had this incredible, thirst. And when I work with my coaching clients, like it's rare to have that thirst with people. Like usually when people come to me for coaching, they do want to feel better. That's the first thing, which is how I started on the spiritual journey. I wanted to feel more inner peace and feel happier. And that has transformed over the years into wanting to know more the truth of our existence, basically, not just to feel better. And so I've had this voracious thirst, and that's one of the things I think why we connected so much, is I saw that voracious thirst in you when we first met over 10 years ago. And so that's, to me, what it takes for transformation, is that desire, is that seeker's thirst, that seeker's desire. It's that being open to learning new things. And some of my clients have a little bit of that, but it is rare. And it does take that to make the changes, because being stuck is a lot of inertia. It's a lot of inertia, being stuck in life and having your habitual habits almost takes a Herculean effort to change habits and to change your way of thinking. And so for you to do that every single week, where you're taking it in, you're open, you're soaking it in, and you're taking it in, and then you're using it in your life, which is what I feel like I've done my whole life. And certainly what I'm doing with the podcast also, I just hope that more people will do that. Like that's sort of my hope for the podcast. And what I'm seeing too, I've sent you a few text messages that people will send me after they see some episodes, and it really is, because it's basically like a free session with me, or an extended session with me plus you, which you have a different way of saying things. And so in that way, it's definitely been really inspiring, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of it, of being able to, say, hey, to one of my friends or one of my clients or one of my family members, listen to this podcast. I think it'll help where you're at right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've actually had the opportunity to do the same thing. And it's funny how, there's certain little moments in each one of the different interviews where, it's almost like each of the guests' path, you can kind of see when somebody is in the same kind of experience that person might have been. You kind of, obviously you're imagining the whole, experience in a very short period of time, what they're giving you. But like, there have been a couple moments of that, particularly with, people are talking about meditation, and it's the conversation of like, I'm not good at meditating. And it's like, well, hold on, then there's a couple of podcasts to point to, or, I haven't had good experiences with or meditating. It's like, there's something to point to. And one of the ones I've been pointing to a couple of times is the Sarah McLean interview, because I probably take this for granted, but, the culture and the friendship that you and I had while I was coming up in my meditation practice gave me probably a more in-depth interaction and a more quick back and forth. If when I had something come up, we could talk about it very casually. And so I don't think I realized for the longest time how incredibly valuable that was, because I think a lot of times people get in, they'll take a meditation course and then there's follow-up. And I know you do a considerable amount of follow-up, and I'm sure Sarah does too. But then on a 10-year scale, there's a lot of time period where you're struggling or wrestling with your practice, or, and you've watched me go through it, like, meditation is cool, but like, I'm trying to just meditate in life now, and it's because I got this idea from reading something or whatever that, eventually you integrate meditation into your life. Well, and it's easy to just say, oh, I'm going to go do that now. But there's the intellectualizing it. There's the knowing that exists, right? And then there's the wisdom of the understanding of how to integrate that. So there's, and I'm kind of going on a tangent here. And that's what's, I think, really powerful is having had a mindful practice, having somebody very close to me, I don't get curating that mindfulness in a friendship kind of a way, but like always being there to fill in some gaps that I might be missing. And then having this, X amount of week reflection. And we spoke with your teacher. We spoke with some of your good friends that you kind of grew up with in the spiritual circle, and all of those different viewpoints and perspectives, particularly the Roger, after we got done with Roger, you were just like, that's my teacher. It's amazing how much of what he taught me 20 years ago, 25 years ago has permeated your practice, has permeated your teaching.
My life.
And your life. Yeah, everything. And so like that's been really profound, is being able to say, okay, I had the knowing and now the wisdom and the understanding of how to integrate this into everyday life. But then also there's this undercurrent of, you don't need to take it so serious. You got your whole life to understand. You got your whole life to enjoy this practice, to form a deeper relationship with your mindfulness, because you once you are in that mindfulness space and in that practice and really enjoying that self-realization practice, you never want it to go away, right? I mean, you're not attached to it maybe, but like you enjoy it that much that you just want it to go on forever, I guess. And so I don't know, there's just a lot of gratitude. There's a lot of insight, wisdom, affirmations in all these different interviews. And it's all kind of circled and focused around, the only one question that is consistent throughout. And that's kind of fascinating to me, I think.
Yeah. When did you become a seeker? And pretty much everyone said they've always been a seeker, or they might have that turning point. But yeah, it's a special breed. And then I love what Satya said, or not Satya. I love what Roger said, that we got to have Satya on too, my ex-husband. Well, I love what Roger said, that we're all born seekers.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we could really come up with a definitive answer to that, yes or no, but that seems to be right. I mean, there doesn't seem to be anything to point to where like you can look at, I mean, obviously we're pulling from a small group of people, but there's not, I can't find a consistency except for this gravity just drew this awareness, this seeking out of each individual at a different time and place. And then upon further reflecting of that, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I had that turning point, but if I really go back, there's another, and you kind of just, once I think you have that mindfulness and you have a relationship with that awareness that is awakening inside of you. I don't know if this is true for everybody, but it seems to be a consistency that you kind of wonder if you ever were asleep. You're just, it doesn't feel that way because it's just you kind of start to integrate with the all being, the spirit that permeates through all things forever. And once you're in that, that wave, you kind of just feel like that wave has been going on forever and it will continue on forever.
Well, the T.S. Eliot saying, at the end of our seeking, we will arrive at the very same place with new eyes and new understanding. And that just says it all right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That really does say it all. And that's, I felt that profoundly this last week because I was out of town for a week, and as you know, I've traveled pretty extensively, and I couldn't wait to travel. I loved being out and just experiencing things, thinking that's where growth is going to happen. And I think there is growth. I think we do need to have culture. And this last trip, man, and I was with family a lot. I was with my grandparents. I got some great conversations. I had some great experiences. Got to see my cousin get married, which was fucking phenomenal. He and his husband had an incredible sharing of vows, and just the whole thing. I mean, it brought me to tears because just the amount of love and what they've had to fight to have that experience was so profound. So, I mean, the week was filled with these really beautiful, excerpts of experiences and just these little flavors of pure joy, really. But when I got home, I just wanted to be in my practice. I just wanted to be back in my, and I know I can bring my practice with me, but it's just, I don't know. I was just, I didn't need to be out. I didn't need to be out in the world. I didn't need to experience that. I was very content to be out there. And when I got home, I was very content to be home. And I was, it was kind of that same thing as I feel like I've had experiences like that where, you go out, and I've gone the fucking out there. I've definitely put myself out on the limb of seeking to a degree where, I was losing my mind, and then something rebounds me back to the center point, and I'm just like, well, I haven't really changed that much. My core values are not changed, but my perspective of myself, my perspective of my surroundings, is changed, and I feel lighter. There's less of me, there's less of the world on me after I go through these experiences. And I guess maybe what I'm trying to articulate is that, not that I'm ever going to not intellectualize things, but what it feels like is there's less of the world on me. There's less of worry on me. There's less of fear on me. And it's because I've had a much closer and intimate relationship with the worries and the fear, particularly compounded during these weekly sessions. So it's kind of a trip, man.
That's so beautiful the way you described that, because that's how I've felt for quite some time now, maybe even over 10 years now, is, hey, I enjoy going to India always, and I love it when I'm there. I enjoy going to Canada to see my family, hanging out on the lake, and but ultimately I'm happy wherever I am. I with so much traveling that I've done in my life, I realized a long time ago that I didn't want to always constantly be looking forward to something, because for many people, I don't want to say most, but many people, they're looking forward to the weekend. And then when the weekend comes, they're looking forward to get away from home to get back to work, or looking forward to vacation. Then you're on vacation, looking forward to get home. It's like, it's this constant rat race going on in the mind of not ever being content. And it's just truly a mindset of being content and satisfied wherever you're at. And I fortunately, like, I definitely wasn't like that when I was young, but for many, many years now, like even like hanging out on the lake, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love lakes, but when I'm on the lake up in Canada, it's like, this is amazing, but honestly, I don't need to be here. I don't feel better here than I do when I'm in Nashville or even here in Mexico. It's like, yeah, I'm enjoying it and the food is wonderful. And, the waking up and walking out into the living room and seeing the ocean right there every day I can really take it in and appreciate it. But I'm not dreading going home to 30 degrees and away from the sun. I'm not, it's just, I'm okay wherever I'm at. And I wish that for everybody on the planet.
Mm. Yeah, I think that sensibility is beginning to enter my consistent beingness.
Yeah.
However you say that, I mean, I think at some point it gets hard to articulate some of these things because there's this, we're reflecting on that operation of beingness and then the observer of your own beingness, and then it's kind of like, well, what the fuck, the paradox, it kind of folds in on itself. But I mean that sensibility of the answer to how are you doing is I'm pretty fucking good. Well, that was kind of a rough day or that was a long day. Yeah, but I'm pretty fucking good, and that normally, as I have a lot of baggage with my family, just programming stuff, insecurities and whatnot. And so, I mean, I drove down with my parents. We drove 17 hours down to Florida. And so, with my parents all day. And then we're hanging out with my grandparents for 3 days. I'm with my parents and my grandparents. That was my dad's parents. And, it's kind of like, are you looking forward to this? I was like, I hadn't even been thinking about that because we're just hanging out right now, and like, well, that was really good. That was really good. But it was no better or no worse than the day before, no matter what. And it was it was weird because it literally didn't matter the set and setting. It didn't matter what we were doing. And I mean, I had a lavish fucking time. I was taken care of. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's like, that's what happens when you're around your parents and your grandparents. Like, you're usually kind of taken care of, but I was also content to be taken care of. Normally my imbalanced empathy would be like, no, I don't need you to take care of me. And it's like, well, I'm in the space. My grandma's obviously going to take care of me. So, okay, I'm in the space, and just being in that and being settled. I know that feels like, you struggle with somebody taking care of you. I really do. I mean, that's something I get hung up on big time. And I know that sounds silly, and it's probably like, well, that's not a big thing to get over, but it is a big thing to get over because, I subscribe to this idea that when you don't allow somebody to do something for you that they want to, that they feel whatever, however inclined to do something for you, and you say, oh, no, don't overdo it. You're taking the joy of giving from them. I mean, you're stealing that opportunity from them to give. And I wrestle with that because I love to take care of people. I love to be hospitable, and I love listening and enjoying. But for some reason, I don't give that same, grace to people that want to have that in that moment. So those were the little things and those little nuances that I was trying to let go of constantly, through all that. And it was very successful, and just kind of standing resolute in the moment, not in my moment, not in where I'm at, not in any, just like taking it all in and just being whatever the fuck it is, wherever the fuck it is, So that was kind of profound and, I guess, shifting for me.
That's great. I love that, because it is the people that are givers and caretakers do tend to, and empaths do tend to have a hard time, I think, receiving. I think part of that's a control thing. When we're giving, we're in control. When we're giving, we're worthy.
Yeah.
and that's why you have to learn how to receive. And it has to be balanced, because there's people that know fully how to receive, but they're takers, they're energy suckers, and they don't know how to feel abundant energetically and emotionally. And we know how to feel abundant and energetic emotionally because we're givers and we're empaths and we're caretakers. But reversing that and relinquishing control and having enough worthiness to give that to somebody else, to allow them to caretake to us. I think that's, I've learned that too.
Yeah. And that's what's, sorry, were you going to say more?
No.
Oh,
you're good.
And that's what's interesting about, I think, one of the biggest lessons in a lot of these interviews is we're all dealing with our own version of this thing. We're dealing with our own version of the programming that we're stuck on, the programming that is out of balance, that we've allowed to be out of balance. We're dealing with our own unique traumas or version of traumas. And I think for a very long time, I was using other people's trauma as a means to not validate my own, or say, well, they have it way worse. That's such a much bigger problem that I have no reason to complain about my traumas. And when I say traumas, I don't mean, I've had a very charmed life and I recognize that, but I do have sticking points that are stopping me or have stopped me from being more open and being more free to express what spirit moves through me to express. And so I think that's something that this podcast is teaching me is you really have to understand yourself. You have to understand what works for you. You have to understand what programming, what stickiness, what traumas are not working for you and are not serving you. You have to comb through all of your beliefs, the beliefs that you know about, the beliefs that you don't know about yet, and that's when you talk about having this thirst for that, when I think you break it down to, I'm searching for the most purest, truest form of myself in each moment, which changes, and then accepting that, and then letting it be, and then not being attached to that, and developing that relationship so intimately that there is no me. I don't know, maybe that's crazy, but it's like, that's what I have a thirst for, is finding those things that are stopping me from expressing myself purely and truly in each moment, and letting them go.
Oh, that's very close to a saying. I don't know where the saying comes from, but the fact that we're not seeking for love, but we're seeking for all the places that we block love.
Yes.
Because we already are love. We're already pure love. We already are pure unconditional love. That's our essence. And when we don't experience ourselves as that, it's when we have a block, energetically or emotionally or psychologically.
Yeah, and I think, I don't remember which guest was talking about, it's like the shadow side. It could have been something that you and I've talked about, not on the interview, but that shadow side, we're a lot of times we're afraid to investigate that area, that part of our experience, that part of our being, because it's the dark place, or it's the negative place, or it's the, but those are all the undealt with traumas and programs and beliefs that are kind of what makes up the identity of the ego in each of us, right? I mean, it's what compounds into this system that is hell-bent on maintaining itself, even if it's not self-serving to, the essence that you are. And that shadow side, man, like it's hard. It's really hard to keep fucking going into that. But I think that has been it's been the best adventures, is going into that part of myself to understand what really, what is this and what is not working and why am I hanging on to this? And now I think we're seeing that on a national level, if not a global level, all of these things that are not working for us anymore, they're coming back around and they will continue to spiral back around. That shadow side exists at all times. You can choose to ignore it, but only for a certain period of time. And I just think that we have to dive into all of those things that you're talking about that are stopping us or blocking us. Most of it's fear and worry. That's the funny thing, is mostly thought constructs of fear and worry.
And that's it right there, Sean, the thought constructs.
Yeah.
And the more we fan those flames, the stronger the thought constructs and BS belief systems become. And then we find people that confirm those thoughts, that believe the same thing we do. And then we unfriend people who don't believe and confirm those thoughts, those ideas. So I think it's really about letting all of that go, and seeing clearly, shining the light of conscious awareness on the ideas that we have, that we are, and everything we are, and everything that we think we're not, or think that we are. I mean, all of it. And shine the light of awareness to see what is true. And, there's many different layers of existence and of experience in this life. I'm personally am interested these days for myself in the truth of our existence, which is the presence, the only thing real that exists in the present moment. Because when the future arrives and the next moment arrives, it'll be the present moment. The past is gone. And so this is it. This is all we have. And so my seeking has brought me here to this moment. But I can still understand there's still layers breaking down for me, more and more every day, more expansion happening, but more stories dropping in, more and more ideas dropping away, more identification of even the, being a spiritual teacher, whatever that means, just those stories are just falling away more and more every day for me, for my journey. Yet I still understand that there's many people that are not there and may not even have an interest in going there. And that's okay. Like I can operate, and I enjoy, like here in Mexico, I'm really enjoying, conversing with the few people that are here. There's, just a few other couples here in this like huge complex with, units, and there's only 3 units filled, ours and 2 others of 2 couples. And the connection and the conversations are wonderful. So but the conversation when you're talking with me will always come around to something spiritual. I mean, I can listen and I can like say yes and no when people want to talk about other things. That's no problem. I can operate in the world, but if they're asking me a question or something, it's always going to have a spin around back to, self-reflection and spirituality and love and, some teaching or whatever. Yeah. I don't know how I got here, but anyways, I'm here now.
No, absolutely. No, that's what I mean. I love this kind of break from an interview because we can just go on the tangent. And this is what the conversations that we have at Ivy turn into, is just a rambling rant of, well, here I am over there now, but I mean, that was a very cohesive response. It just probably didn't seem like it because of where you ended. But I think I was feeling what you were saying, and I've been having a lot of conversations with, family members, and it's funny. I usually, if somebody's going to like have a deep conversation with me, it's going to go there too. It's going to go either extremely dark comedy or very spiritual, depending on the person's comfort level. And I used to be very self-conscious of that. I have been guarded about spirituality in general. I have these weird hangups, as particularly spawning from Christianity, and I've actually had pretty good success letting that go and just conversing with people without alleviating those biases from the conversation. And It was funny. My grandparents, because we did the podcast when where I was at their house, and then they're like, "So what's the podcast about?" And I gave them the spiel, about its people on the spiritual seeking process, and we talked to all these different guests who are on different parts of their own spiritual path, and they were like, wow. Well, they had no context for that because, and I think a lot of my family recognizes that I live in that world, kind of that world that you're talking about, where it's like, yeah, it's going to go spiritual real fucking quick. We're going to go to the heart of the matter as fast as I possibly can because that's my passion, and so I can relate to that. And I it's funny because my family has a very, Christian-based life, kind of surrounding everything, but as far as like the depth of spirituality, it's not really there for everybody. So it's kind of this weird thing where it's like, I don't know where the fuck this guy's at, but, and I usually am very, self-conscious of that, but I've been more open to those ideas. And to that point, like you're talking to random strangers about whatever, and having the space and having the conversation. And I was just having that conversation with my brother because, we have this facade that we're creating space on like social network. We have this facade of, all right, everybody's got a platform now. And it's what it seems like from me is in general, there's a platform to let somebody else talk while you wait to rebuttal your perspective and your bias. Space is space to listen and take it in and turn off your thinking voice, your speaking voice. Turn that off and really take that in. And it's funny because with all the political, social issues, I don't hear a lot of people saying things like, damn, I hear you. And I have never thought about that from that angle. Or, I really can't relate with your situation because I've never been put through that. It seems like we have these platforms of defensive responding, defensive reaction. And I guess one thing that I'm really thankful for is, and what I think happened very natural through this podcast is, there's a very mutual respecting space while we're having this conversation. And it's even harder. You have to be very calculated because it's all Zoom, right? But it's very much like, okay, your turn to talk and we're all listening to you. You're listening to me. We're listening to them. And I really think we need to put more value into those kinds of conversations and the listening conversations and being open to just have the conversation with everybody, not I'm open to sharing my ideas of life with you, but I'm not open to having conversations. I think we need to start moving away from that and really challenging ourselves to listen more and be in that space, knowing that you are going to bring, whatever it is that you have that is important and valuable to you to the table. Like you said, spirituality, but we need to listen a lot more. We'd get further if we listened a lot.
Yes, it's true. And as much as I know how important that is and I work on it every single day, and I do feel like I do listen for a living, basically listen to people for a living. And I love that. It is a challenge because we live sort of in a self-centered society. I mean, selfies, we take selfies now. I mean, everybody takes selfies now. And yet it's this paradox because you're the most important person in your life. Like I've told you this before, when you look at a photograph, even if it's a photograph of 10 people and 8 of them or 9 of them are people that you love more than anything else in the world, the first person you look at is you. You're the star of your... True. It's true. You're the star of your show. And so in the spiritual journey certainly can look like a self-absorbed journey because it is a solo journey. And yet, we're born into this world alone. and we will die alone. There might be people around us, but our journey, both from the world to here and from this world to the next one, whatever that is for you, is alone. And so this is a solo journey. And so understanding the distinction and the difference between being selfless and self-absorbed. So it both are self, because we're here for the self. And yet when you become more spiritually connected, you do have more empathy and want to listen to everybody around you because you feel interconnected to everything and everyone. If you aren't feeling connected to everything and everyone, if you feel lonely, if you feel alone, if you feel like nobody understands you, that's sort of tendencies of a little bit narcissistic, which we all have a little bit of that in our culture, but that's a sign that you need to be meditating, because that's one of the quickest ways to feel connected to everything and everyone, because you're spending time with that part of yourself that's beyond this separate physical senses to the level of, the present moment, beyond the intellect, beyond the ego, where we're all interconnected really to the non-local level. And so when you start having more non-local experiences, things that don't have a place in time, like our thoughts and our bodies and the world is all like a part of a local experience, right? And so that's, the opposite of what when we're in that, we feel separate. But then it's important to balance that with a non-local experience, which is really what we are. We are non-local. We are souls which are unborn and never die. We're all connected. But to tap into that every day so that you feel that connection, so that you become more selfless and less self-absorbed, so you feel connected. You want to help your neighbor. You do love her as yourself. You want to help. You don't just feel pity for people, but you actually will give $1 on the street or what. You don't have to give $1 on the street. There's nothing, but you do feel a sense of connection and interconnectedness to everything. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. Then you want to listen. Then you have an interest in listening, because so it's just sort of signs of where you're at really on this, and I hate to say the spiritual path, but on maybe a self-discovery, self-aware path is a better word for it. It is if you find yourself listening more and talking less and being really truly interested in people's story more than your own, that's a symptom that you are becoming more self-aware and more experiencing more interconnectedness, which you already are interconnected to everything. Like I'm interconnected. I feel all the time interconnected and connected to everything. But if you don't feel that, that's when you don't want to listen. You want to listen to yourself more. And then it causes more separation, causes more anxiety, causes loneliness, causes victimhood, all of that. So yes, listening is important. And yet, how do you become a good listener? Yeah, you can just say, I'm going to be a better listener, or you can, meditate, be on the self-aware, self-discovery journey, help somebody else, go help in the soup kitchen, whatever on Thanksgiving or, and help others. And that's how you feel more connected, because you see yourself in other people.
Yeah. I mean, right. Because once you start, that's a great solution, because you're not actually doing anything. You're sitting in that space of connectedness, and it will do everything it needs to by itself, right? I mean, you will start acting within that connectedness as if that other person is a part of you. If that other group is a part of you, even though you're not locally, you are, on a universal time scale or a universal space scale, whatever you want to get in that dimension. But that's the funny thing, is it's like it is in that surrender. It's in the doing less. It's in the doing, letting go of ideas and biases. And that's the hard part. It's like, well, but I have a really good idea about this. It's like, okay, you probably do. Maybe you don't. who knows? But start changing your perspective by letting that connectedness shift your perspective towards this person is as me as I am me, and I am as much them as they are themselves. Then you have to start thinking differently, right? Because any attack that you're going to put on them, you feel that on yourself, and that's, I think, is if that's a connection you're talking about. And I think that would be really interesting if we can integrate that practice and that mindfulness, that connectedness more into our human species, because, and take, for example, my cousin's wedding. It was a gay wedding. One of the things that my new cousin-in-law said was, I was raised closeted, and I had no idea that I would ever actually have this opportunity to be married to the love of my life. That is one of the most painful and beautiful things to hear somebody say, because the amount of courage that, and there's a lot of people that have had to endure that much courage, and now we're at a space where socially, I don't want to say it's accepted, because that seems demeaning, but it is what it is. It's marriage now. It doesn't, we don't have that same hang up that we used to, and for me, it's a great example to put this lens onto, because it's like, what if this whole time we had been feeling that connectedness, and you could feel his pain as he was enduring that disconnectedness, that being shunned from society because of something that is innate within him. What if we had projected that connectedness into the scenario, and we said, oh, fuck, that shit really hurts. I feel you hurting. It hurts like I hurt. Let's change this immediately. Let's bring each other out of that hurt. Fuck, we have the ability to do that. I mean, we're slow to do that, and a lot of times it's with a lot of resistance, but we have the ability to feel that connected to each other. And man, what more freedom we would all have to explore and express ideas if we were in that connectedness, and what more we could gain from each other from being in that connected space that, like you said, already fucking exists. We are choosing to be disconnected. We are choosing to allow our beliefs and prejudices and biases, to a certain degree. Yeah, I'm sure that's, choosing.
Well, some people, it's there. I feel like physiologically their brains aren't, they live in the limbic system, in the fear part of their brain, in the amygdala. And that they literally don't have the consciousness to be able to choose. Like, they don't know that there's a choice. They just think that whether it's this dogmatic religion that they're in, or, whatever belief system, or poverty consciousness, or, whatever it is that they're, well, and also too, that there's spiritual people that are very dogmatic. There's people that just have very concrete belief systems, and they don't have an ability. And that's the whole point of the spiritual awakening, or awakening of any kind. It can come from people having terminal illness, that they can wake up from that and all of a sudden go from being completely self-absorbed, angry victim, prejudiced person, and maybe they get a terminal illness, and they wake up one day and realize that they're connected to everything. So I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I don't know that it's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably a bit of an overstep on my, because it seems like if we did have the choice and we could see that we're choosing to stay in that disconnectedness, we would more often choose not to stay in that disconnectedness, because it's, and this is, of course, this is my perspective, it seems better to be in a connected space. not because the connected space is better, but because it is that higher dimension, that space, that more eternal, ethereal zone where there isn't that concrete programming. It is what it is.
And then maybe some people are meant to have the concrete programming their entire life, and they're catalyst to other people to wake up from the concrete programming.
Right.
You know, like it's like the angel or the sinner was once a saint. The sinner will one day be a saint, and the saint was once a sinner. We're all going in the same direction. I've always said there's thousands of years of evolution going on in this planet at any given time. We're not even talking about other galaxies and universes and everything, just this space-time continuum Earth experience. There's thousands of years of evolution going on from the Elon Musk of the world that are creating these neurons in your brain that could make eyesight possible for the blind to tribal people living in maybe Africa or Australia or other parts of the globe that still live in tribes and don't have any of the modern anything, right? And not to say that they aren't higher consciousness, because they could be much higher than many people, right. But just that evolutionary aspect of it, and everybody's playing a role, and everybody has a role to play. And, that's what's so beautiful that I love where I'm coming from, is like, I see the importance of the diabolical. I see the importance of the divine in the play of consciousness, of the angel and the devil, if you want to put it that way, the light and the dark, of the Maya, the Leela, the player of the Maya. Maya is illusion. Leela is the play of consciousness, the play of the illusion in this time-space continuum, in this experience. I see the importance of all of it. And that's a fun place to be. And so not to discount anybody's experience.
Yeah, that's big. Not to discount anybody's experience, because it's just their experience right now. And there's no evidence to support that we can project anybody's going to have the same perspective, or that it's not important that they're having this perspective right now, or that it's not important to have this perspective. There's no real evidence. It is, interestingly, all of these wrinkles being ironed out by some magical force, really. I mean, some graceful force is allowing all of this to unfold as it is. And it's messy, it's uncomfortable, it's dangerous at times, but it's also magnificent, and it's kind of gorgeous, right? It's one of the most beautiful things to see is just to sink back and be in that outer space of, well, I know I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I know I'm not, ultimately the one choosing how all this unfolds. I am trying to be accountable, and I'm trying to surround myself with people who hold me accountable to my flaws, but then also to my, my, I guess, great qualities. I hope I have some, and I'm sure I do. But like, being around people that challenge all aspects of you, I'm trying to have that. That is a lot. That's a full-time fucking job, and it's hard to hang on to that kind of a experience. So I think a symptom of that is a grace for other people. Like, fuck, that's just where they're at, man. And I vacillate between that. I'm sometimes I'm like, man, people are just doing their thing. They're just trying to make it through it. And other times I'm like, come on, motherfuckers, you can do better. I have those moments too. And ultimately I think that, that is the peaceful perspective, is, there is something else that is driving this thing or allowing this thing, and it's impossible to dictate whether or not we could even have the understanding or the knowledge to say how this should go.
It's unfathomable. The whole thing is unfathomable. And, you know, it works for me to just trust. And not just works for me, I feel, again, that everybody's experience is valid. And I may not like it. That doesn't mean you condone it. Doesn't mean I condone everything. It just means it's valid just because it is. An experience, you know? That's what I mean. It's happening.
Yeah. Well, but I think, that look was awesome. I think it's important to start with that in conversations with people and validate where they're coming from. Saying, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And you know, it's not up to me to allow you to have this perspective. If you're looking for my perspective, I think that this is going to turn into self-sabotage or whatever, you know, but I think that is a beautiful thing to say, is to validate people's experience, to validate their perspective, even if it seems like crazy, like literally crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, and I think that's something that, probably very thankful to be in this country, where you can say just about any fucking thing you want to say. You can literally say the most craziest bullshit lies on social media ever. And it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be the right thing to say. But, you know, starting with, okay, are you open to somebody else's suggestion? Let's talk about this. But first, giving them that space and not just belittling people. I think because most people are probably coming from a space of feeling belittled, feeling invalidated. I mean, that will spawn aggression, that will spawn bias, that will spawn prejudice. And being more neutral with people and saying, what's going on, man? What's going on in your world? I'll hear you. And, it's a wonderful gift to have the opportunity to be that for people. Is just good listener.
Yeah, I've heard two great stories somewhat related to what we're talking about. Just having compassion and where people are at and validating like their experience, and it doesn't mean we condone it, but having understanding. So there was a guy, so I was reading this book, and she was talking this story about this kind of successful comedian type of guy. He's been on a couple TV shows, and he was on Facebook, and this guy really reamed him out on Facebook and said he was a loser and was a terrible actor, and he should just crawl back into the hole where he came from, kind of thing. And so the comedian, instead of being defensive or fighting back or unfriending him, went to his page to look to see where this guy was coming from. And it looked like he could tell this guy was having a really hard time, that he was financially down in the dumps, and I think he had some medical issues and stuff. And so the comedian started a GoFundMe for this guy, raised a bunch of money, and they became really good friends and helped him through his hard time. Isn't that awesome? And there's another story in another book I was reading that's even more intense, that there was a guy that shot and almost killed. It happened to be a Muslim man. And the guy was put in jail. He was found guilty. And when the Muslim guy man rehabilitated, got better, he started to reach out to the guy in jail and became an advocate to get him out of jail, befriended his daughter, and found out that this guy had come from a really hard background, was orphaned as a child and, just was never given any breaks. And, and so he helped the guy, so there's so many circumstances where love and understanding and compassion can turn things around. Because so that's love and what love and understanding and compassion do in both those circumstances. And what the ego does is the ego becomes defensive. And so if the ego was operating in those two situations, there would have been very different outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And there's plenty of opportunities to lean more towards the forgiveness, the love, and that is where we do have some control in our lives, is to choose how we're going to respond to certain circumstances like that. And and I'm thankful to know the difference. I'm sure I don't always choose the right, love and forgiveness and that path, but those are two great examples of, really overcoming the ego bias in a situation. And that's happening right now. This country artist, I'm not going to be able to pull his name, but he was walking across the street, started throwing out expletives and dropped the N-bomb, and he dropped and he was caught on one of those Ring cameras, like on somebody's front door. They caught him saying all that. So his manager label dropped him, booking agent dropped him, and I mean he's been under heat, in the past for making some poor decisions. 27 years old, and and that's ignorant to use that word. I mean, it's just, there's no excuse for it. It's unnecessary, and it's very inconsiderate, to say the least. But one of the things that's happening is there's been at least one, maybe a couple musicians and artists from the black community who have reached out as kind of more like a mentor to say, hey, we need forgiveness in this situation. We get it. Yeah, this is not a good look. This is disrespectful, and it's painful to hear people say and use these words, but we feel like love, forgiveness, and education about why,
instead
that's
of
going to
punishing
do more than just...
instead of punishing blindly and shaming, because that's basically what's happening to this guy, is he's being shamed now. And anybody, when they're shamed, I mean, that's just one of the worst things you can do to a person. And that's not going to heal any wounds and educate. The love is going to heal and educate.
Yeah, I mean, and so when you're shunned, when you're belittled, and, do you think that that's going to make him not be more aggressive and maybe use that term more? Because it's a funny reverse psychology or paradox that happens when we have these situations where, if something like that happens, you turn more towards that mechanism that caused you to use that in the first place. But compassion and, understanding to say, hey, this is why this word is so hurtful and so powerful. You might not know why it's so powerful and hurtful, and having somebody from that community to be able to share that, you're going to get compassion, you're going to get understanding, you're going to get, hopefully forgiveness, you're going to hopefully get accountability and apology on his end. And actually, I believe, as far as I understand, he's come out and he's been very open of my fans stopped defending me. I fucked up. I am reaping the consequences of a miscalculated and very bad action. So, it actually is, I mean, he's being made an example of for sure, but, he recognizes it's his own fault. And so, I think if having those experiences and bridging that gap and people coming together from different cultures, different backgrounds, who wouldn't normally, coexist, I think those are beautiful examples of the level of connectedness I think we've been talking about is that forgiveness. It's like, yeah, okay, this guy's being an asshole to me, but let me do some research and figure out why he's being an asshole. Oh, he's only being an asshole because he feels backed into a corner, and the only way he knows how to respond is, aggression because of his programming. All right, I get that. Well, let me be nice to the guy and see what happens. And, now it's a lifelong friend. And I think those are really cool success stories because it just shows it shows the power of that mechanism of connectedness through neutrality, through letting go, through just sinking back and being in that mindfulness, practice. It's profound, man. And maybe that's not earth shattering. Maybe these stories aren't, totally mind blowing, but these are the subtle and consistent steps that reflect what you do as an individual, right? I mean, what we do as an individual is we go through this process of self-reflection. Now we extrapolate that out, and now I think we just keep having more examples of this, and we showcasing these examples more instead of the fear, instead of the worry, instead of the pain. Let's reflect some of these other issues. That's what it feels like we might be here to do.
Yeah, that's a good job. I'll take that role.
It pays well.
Well, it doesn't really,
Yeah,
but
right.
it pays well in heart coins, heart expansion coins.
Heart coin. Yeah.
And it is coming up
Scotty and I,
Valentine's Day. So.
Yeah, we could use all that as much as possible, man. And we used to have this this little jingle, and it was like a karma points jingle that Scotty and I would send to each other, like every time we saw each other doing something good, and it was like, you just won karma points. Karma points. So it and I know that's not how karma works. For everybody listening, that's not how karma works. I know. It's just a funny thing. But I don't know, man. I can't even say it feels good necessarily. It does feel good, but there's a fulfillment that comes from riding that wave. There's a fulfillment that comes from, listening and adhering to spirit, that ethereal wind that whispers, that gravity that nudges you, draws you, whatever you want to say. It feels fulfilling, and it's humbling, and it's probably the most real thing that I've ever interacted with.
Beautiful.
And
he says as he swigs his whiskey.
And. Oh, it's good. This is some good stuff. This is some Willet. It's beautiful. But that's it. I mean,
you just said you were drinking tea.
I'm not gonna lie to the people.
No, we don't lie to the people.
Well, I'm.
Oh, you got your tea too.
I try not to. I don't know enough to lie, man. It's just, it's fun, man. I think, we talked about the compounding effects of the spiritual journey, and that's what this podcast has been. I hope other people are enjoying it. I hope people are getting that same feeling, that same sense. I certainly am, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. And, I can't wait to continue and see more, people's journeys.
Yeah, we got another great interview Monday. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because it helps other people to find us, and give a thumbs up and comment and give us a review or comment, because we want to hear your questions and comments if you're enjoying it and what you'd want to hear more about. We're all in this together.
Yeah, man. As everybody knows, I love talking and extrapolating and intellectualizing questions. So I'd love to have that. I would be able to kind of read some questions on maybe the live section. So please, interact, send whatever. It's fun. It's fun to hear where people are at about it.
Yeah, and we are going live on Facebook most Mondays around, sometime between 5 and 7 p.m. Central Time. So look for us there too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your vacation, Corrine. And I appreciate you as always for setting all this stuff up and, being a mentor and friend and just a darling in my life. So thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
Love you too. You have a great evening.
Okay. Good night.
Bye.